Hey guys, my name is Talia. I'm a staff member at Discovery, and I'm going to help you do your homework today. So you've got a data science discovery exam coming up, but you're a little bit lazy, so you don't want to study any more than you have to. And somehow you collected data from last semester's data science discovery students, and you have the amount of hours they studied and then what score they got based off that amount of time. And because you're in data science discovery, you can use linear regression to make a model using the hour information and the score information to predict how many hours you have to study to get whatever score you want. So for the first question in this problem, it asks you to create a general linear regression equation using the information they gave you. So the format given to you in class for general linear regression is y equals bo plus b1 times x. And this is like how they tell you to do it in class, but really this is just a fancy way of doing y equals mx plus b. And so like b1 is your slope and b0 is your y-intercept. So that's kind of like, this is the same thing, but in different ways. And so in this case, what you're trying to figure out is what do you put for your y and what do you put for your x? Well, think about it. You're using hours to predict what score you're going to get. So you're trying to find your score at the end, and you're changing the amount of hours you have. So you know that your final answer is going to be score. So it's score equals, and then you have your y-intercept, you add that, plus your slope times your x, and your x is hours, because the score depends on the hours. And you could, you have to multiply your hours by your slope, because the slope is like, it's just like saying how x changes, and that affects what you get for y. So that's why you multiply x by your slope, b1. And that's the answer for the first part. So now that you have your general equation set up, you want to calculate what actually is your intercept. What actually is your slope? You want to find numbers for these now. So you know that based on equations given to us in class, you can calculate your slope by taking the correlation coefficient r and multiplying that by the standard deviation of y over the standard deviation of x. And it's really helpful that they gave us all this information for the problem, so we don't have to do any tedious calculations on our own. So all it is now is plugging in. You do, it told you that r is 0.52, and you multiply by the SD of y, and we know that your score is your y and your hours are your x. So you take your r that it gave us is 0.52, and you multiply that by the standard deviation of y, which is 8.91, and you divide that by your standard deviation for x, which is 0.67, and I calculated this earlier. It is about 6.915. So that's your slope for the general equation. You can plug that in for your b1. And for the third and final part of this question, you're finding your intercept. You're finding your bo. So this is your intercept, and the equation they gave you to find this is you take your average for y, and then you subtract the slope times your average for x. And this might seem like it's kind of random and you have to memorize it, but you don't. It's actually just another manifestation of y equals mx plus b, right? Because if you're finding your b, you subtract mx, just do some algebra. B equals y minus mx. And it's the same format, right? Intercept equals y minus slope times x. And the reason we're doing averages here is because this is like a bunch of data that we have. It's not just like one point. And so we do our average to find the general regression line that encompasses all the data. So it's the same thing here, average y minus slope times average x, and we have all this information your average y is 69.95 minus the slope we found in the previous problem, which is 6.915. And make sure that if this is not like a clean decimal, make sure to like use just like store it in your calculator or something so that you don't have rounding errors when you're calculating this, because the answer for the third part depends on what you got for the second part. So plug in the entire number you have here, multiply by your average for x, which is 3, and then just do some math, and you get about 49.205. And that's the answer for the third and final part of this simple linear regression.